Hi, I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief at Pharma Forum. I'm here at ASCO 23, and I'm joined by Warner Biddle, Global Head of Commercial at Kite, a Gilead company. Is that right?
That's right. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So, Kite has some big news of the show today. You care to give us a little overview?
Yeah, sure. We're really excited about ASCO in general. Gilead and Kite have over 33 abstracts here this year, which is our biggest performance at an ASCO in the past years, which is incredible and showing great momentum. But particularly at Kite, we're really excited about some new data that just we're releasing on our second-line LBCL trial, large B-cell lymphoma trial called ZUMA-7. In that trial, we actually showed a statistically significant and clinically meaningful benefit in overall survival. And for these patients, this is the first time in almost 30 years that we've shown this advantage versus a standard of care that's been with us for, like I said, 30 years.
So what kind of a treatment is this? What's the mechanism of action?
Well, cell therapy is actually the treatment. You use it actually, you take your the patient's own T cells, we genetically and re-engineer them, ship them back to the patient, they're re-injected and infused into the patient, and they actually fight their own cancer, which is actually a very unique way of treating cancer and quite revolutionary.
Yeah, for sure. So what stage is this in? What kinds of results are you presenting?
Well, this is actually a phase 2, phase 3 study that's read out actually initially at ASH of last year, where we had the EFS data that showed really, really promising results there. But now here at ASCO, we're actually showing that we've actually demonstrated the overall survival, which is what we were waiting for.
Oh, great.
Like I said, this is fairly landmark. We haven't seen a new revolutionary treatment like this in almost 30 years. And I think when we hear the data on Monday, you're going to see that this is going to be transformative in this space and can actually change the standard of care for these patients.
Yeah, for lymphoma, generally for this particular...
For large B-cell lymphoma, yes.
But is this a avenue that Kite and Gilead are pursuing in other indications too, or?
Oh, definitely, yes. We're indicated in 5 indications now. And in fact, we have some results also here at ASCO reporting on our 3-year data in ALL, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia, actually demonstrating a 26-month median overall survival. Again, setting another landmark with this 3-year data in this leukemia space as well, which is really, really exciting for these patients.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me a little bit about. I mean, cell therapy is a really I don't want to say a hot topic, but people are really talking a lot about cell and gene therapy, both because of the sort of transformative potential that it has, but also because it's a big shift from these molecule-based approaches, both in what's required in manufacturing and some of the business commercial aspect of how it's going to be paid for, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how like as you guys get closer to approval and commercialization and really putting this out there, like what are some of the challenges? What are some of the opportunities?
Yeah, well, I think what's really important to know is that even over this last 5-6 years since Yescarta was first launched back in 2017, we've seen a huge shift in terms of adoption and in terms of our ability to actually deliver for these patients. If you think back to 2017, we actually only treated 27 commercial patients that year in that very first initial year. You fast forward to today, and we've actually now treated almost 15,000 patients.
Wow.
And we've answered 2 really critical questions. One is, can we actually deliver on the promise of survival for these patients and deliver on the early promise that we saw back in 2017? And can we actually deliver this at scale? And I think that's what we've actually demonstrated with Kite and with Yescarta and Tecartus, is we're actually able to do both of those things. We're delivering on the promise of survival, the potential for survival, as well as with the manufacturing capabilities that you've talked about now. We can deliver consistently for patients, fast turnaround times, and with high manufacturing success rates, so that the patients that want to get these potential therapies can actually get them, receive them, and have the potential to cure.
So what I've been hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that right now these cell therapies, we're seeing a lot of impact in the leukemias, in the blood cancers and things like that. In solid tumor, it's considerably like further behind, or it's more challenging, or it's not there yet. But do you see this being something that kind of spreads in the next 5-10 years, like all across oncology?
Well, that's the hope. Yeah. I mean, we've seen these revolutionary treatments having these impact on patients. In fact, we had our 5-year survival data for large B-cell lymphoma presented last year in third-line LBCL, and we actually saw 43% overall survival for patients that had an average lifespan of less than 6 months. So these are truly revolutionary therapies. And so, like you just indicated, we're all working here as an industry, but particularly at Kite, and how can we spread these to more indications, not just within the hematological cancers, but even into solid tumors as well. But to your point, solid tumors are a lot more complex. There's more heterogeneity with the tumors themselves, more complexity with the way the microtumor environment actually operates. It's going to take a little bit more effort. Some of the early work in this space is promising, but we're not quite at the same level as we are with hematological cancers.
So one more question that I kind of want to ask everybody here about, and it's a bit of a diversion from what we've been talking about, but
Sure.
In your work at Kite, how have you seen sort of digital technology and AI kind of changing how you guys do things, and how do you see it changing things in the next 5 or 10 years?
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I think from an artificial intelligence perspective, definitely within our research and development group, we're actually leveraging that now in order to identify which patient types are actually going to be more receptive to this therapy, and which patient types we should actually start to look at and enroll in clinical trials, which is actually going to help us with guidelines so that we can actually get these therapies to the most appropriate patients moving forward. And then from a digital technology perspective, we know from a communication perspective, there's a huge unmet need right now. All the opinion leaders, particularly the ones that are here at this meeting, understand and know about cell therapy. But a lot of these patients are still working and operating in the community. And the big challenge that we have, and that's why we want to continue to leverage digital technologies, is how do we get to these patients? How do we get to the community physicians to educate them about the promise of cell therapy so they can get referred in early enough so they can potentially receive these therapies and potentially get a cure.
Yeah, so spreading the word.
Spreading the word. Yes, it's a big educational effort. We're proud as a Kite organization taking a spearheaded approach here, but it's really a team sport. We're working to work with all the key stakeholders, including yourselves, on how do we get the word out to the broader audience about the hope and the promise that we can bring to all these patients.
Anything else you're excited about, either from the perspective of what you guys are bringing, or just what you've seen or what you're hoping to or interested in seeing or hearing at the show?
Well, maybe just going back to the overall survival data that I just highlighted a second ago with Yescarta and second-line LBCL. We believe it's going to do two things. First of all, it clearly differentiates Yescarta. None of the other cell therapies have demonstrated this, and it will be the first and only cell therapy that can actually demonstrate this for patients. But more importantly, I think it really validates cell therapy as a class. And like we were just talking about a few minutes ago, if we can actually validate this as a class, can we actually get the word out to a broader group of patients so we can help more patients over the longer term? So that's what excites us at Kite, and really excited that you were asking us about it and spending this time with you.
Absolutely. Great to chat with you.
Thank you.